Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, grilled on Blake Lively in contentious interview.
All right, listen up because this is insane. Blake Lively's picture-perfect Hollywood image? Yeah, it's unraveling right in front of our eyes. And trust me, you're not ready for the level of chaos that's about to hit.
So Friedman added, I represented a lot of people in the worst moments of their careers, the worst moments of their life.
For months, she played the victim, claiming Justin Baldoni made her feel unsafe on set. But now, the receipts are dropping, the courtroom is heating up, and the truth, well, let's just say it's not what she wanted us to believe.
Justin has been destroyed by this.
Her own texts? Exposed. That so-called harassment footage? Yeah, it might actually prove the opposite of what she's been saying. And the real kicker? Hollywood heavyweights like Hugh Jackman and Reynolds just got dragged into the mess, and it's getting ugly.
Lively was laughing and having time, and no one...
But here's the part no one saw coming. Blake's entire PR strategy is backfiring in real time, and the internet is turning on her fast. A secret documentary just blew the lid off everything. And suddenly, the America's Sweetheart Act isn't holding up. So what's really going on here?
See that there's anything off here.
Was this a Hollywood takedown gone wrong? Or did Blake Lively just get caught in the biggest web of her own lies? Buckle up, because by the end of this video, you're gonna see her in a whole new light. So how did we even get here?
Basically, Justin Baldoni cases likely won't settle before trial, and this is according to Justin's lawyer.
Well, it all started back in late 2023. Right in the middle of filming It Ends With Us. Out of nowhere, Blake Lively hit Justin Baldoni with some serious accusations, claiming that he made her feel uncomfortable on set.
Can you say with certainty that you harassed her?
Now, on the surface, that sounds like something Hollywood would take very seriously. But here's where things start getting weird. Blake wrapped up filming like nothing happened, smiled for the cameras, and then, boom, as soon as the director called cut.
Because this is about a man's reputation, this is about multiple people whose lives...
She slapped Baldoni with a lawsuit. The timing? Suspicious. And here's the part that nobody saw coming. Instead of settling, like 95% of these cases usually do, Justin Baldoni refused to back down. He lawyered up with Brian Friedman, a legal beast who doesn't just play defense, he goes for the kill.
Turned upside down accusations that need to be proven.
And from the jump, Friedman made one thing crystal clear. No settlement, no PR cleanup. Blake's going to have to face this in open court. And that's when everything flipped. Because suddenly, it wasn't just about Blake's accusations anymore. It was about what she wasn't telling us. And when that truth started creeping out, let's just say, Blake was not ready for what happened next.
So Friedman added, represented a lot of people in the worst careers, the worst life. And Justin has been
And this is where things started to fall apart. Not for Justin, but for Blake. The moment Brian Friedman stepped into that courtroom, it was game over. This wasn't some Hollywood PR battle. This was real. And Friedman wasn't about to let his client get steamrolled by carefully crafted sob stories. And then, it happened. The bombshell moment that had everyone talking. Right there in front of the entire courtroom, Friedman dropped the receipts. Evidence that didn't just poke holes in Blake's claims. It blew them wide open.
This is a really serious thing. And in this day and age, the only way you can truly...
Blake, who walked into court all poised and confident, suddenly looked like she'd seen a ghost. Gone was the polished actress, the controlled expressions. She was visibly shaken. It was the first time in this entire mess that she wasn't the one controlling the narrative. And the courtroom wasn't the only place where things were turning against her. The media, picking up on the cracks. The internet, not buying the victim act anymore. And suddenly, people started asking questions Blake really didn't want to answer.
Get back is to prove your... And he noted how trials are now important to prove your innocence.
But here's where it gets even wilder. Because just when she thought it couldn't get worse, the next piece of evidence hit the public. And that's when her entire story started crumbling right in front of her eyes. And this is where things went from bad to disastrous for Blake Lively. Because remember how she kept saying Justin Baldoni made her feel uncomfortable on set? Well, turns out, her own words are telling a very different story. Leaked text messages between Blake and Justin surfaced.
He sat down and chatted in a podcast interview, and he had a lot to say.
And let's just say, they do not scream victim. In fact, they paint an entirely different picture. One where Blake is trusting Justin, laughing with him, and even delaying meetings with the film's intimacy coordinator. which, according to industry experts, usually means an actor feels completely comfortable with their co-star.
So 3 months after Blake Lively levied SH allegations with us, Justin Baldoni admitted that a set.
But wait, it gets worse. The infamous dance scene footage that Blake's team swore backed up her claims? Yeah, it doesn't. Instead, it shows her smiling, joking, and completely at ease while filming. And the moment that clip leaked, the internet erupted.
Likely isn't in the forecast. So the high-profile litigator Brian Friedman noted has been destroyed by this.
And then enter Mia, a top-tier intimacy coordinator who wasn't even involved in the movie, but when she saw the footage, she didn't hold back. She analyzed the clip and the texts, and instead of supporting Blake's claims, she straight up said they actually helped Baldoni's case. That's right. An independent expert just poked a massive hole in Blake's entire argument.
His words. But these types of cases take a massive personal toll. They take a huge financial toll.
Now, at this point, people started connecting the dots. How could Blake claim she felt unsafe, yet at the same time act completely normal around Justin? The contradictions were piling up, and the court of public opinion starting to turn against her. But just when you think this scandal couldn't get any messier, it did.
Really difficult. And for them, it's not a game, right? For them, it's not entertainment, and it shouldn't be, because this is about amputation.
Because Hollywood heavyweights were about to get dragged into the fire. And trust me, they did not see this coming. And this is where things go from a courtroom drama to a full-blown Hollywood power struggle. Because just when Blake thought she was handling the fallout, two unexpected names got pulled into the chaos: Hugh Jackman and Reynolds.
The only thing that would really make a settlement possible would be an apology.
And trust me, neither of them wanted to be here. First up, Hugh Jackman. Yeah, Wolverine himself is now being dragged into this legal firestorm, and let's just say, it's not looking good. At first, people thought Hugh was just an innocent bystander, caught in the crossfire of a messy Hollywood scandal. But now, that narrative is shifting fast. Sources are claiming that he wasn't just watching from the sidelines, he was actively involved in some seriously shady behind-the-scenes pressure tactics during the filming of It Ends With Us.
I can't see that happening anytime soon. So Friedman then said, you keep referring to.
And if these accusations turn out to be true, let's just say that squeaky clean, family-friendly reputation Hugh has spent decades building, it's about to take a serious hit. Here's where things get even stranger. Because while all of this was bubbling under the surface, Hugh made a suspiciously timed announcement: his divorce from Deborah Lee Furness after 27 years of marriage. And let's be real, Hollywood divorces happen, but the timing on this one, beyond questionable.
And I get it. You see cases, and you do a great job, but
some insiders are already whispering that this wasn't just a random personal decision. It was a carefully calculated distraction, a classic Hollywood move. When things start getting too messy behind the scenes, throw out a big personal headline to shift the focus. And for a minute, it almost worked.
You know, here's this name of this writer that cut through. That was interesting to me because, like, you know, in older generations, you know, everybody was listening to the same radio shows, you know.
But now that he's being officially deposed, there's no dodging what's coming next. Legal teams are already digging through emails, past conversations, and text messages, looking for any incriminating connections. If it turns out Hugh played even a small role in the efforts to silence Baldoni or manipulate the situation behind the scenes, his career, his legacy, and his future in Hollywood could be on the line.
It's based on a beautiful, really important book, and it's about a young woman named Lily who confronts the generational cycles in her life.
And here's where it gets even messier, because Hugh isn't the only one caught in this web. Up next, Reynolds. And trust me, what he's being accused of is even worse. But here's where it gets even crazier. Because at the same time all of this was going down, Hugh Jackman suddenly announced his divorce after 27 years of marriage. And the timing? Highly suspicious. People immediately started wondering, was this a strategic distraction? Was he trying to shift attention away from the legal drama before it blew up in his face?
She said, just read it, because I was looking for movies that could be commercial and speak to the human experience. And
were you reading romance novels?
And I had never read a romance novel.
Never?
And she said, just trust me, read it. So I read it, and by the end of the book, I couldn't even read the text on the page because I was crying so much. My wife was in bed next to me, and she's, you know, I got snot coming out of my nose.
And then there's Reynolds, Blake's devoted husband, her Hollywood partner in crime. Except now, he's being accused of something way worse: sabotage. According to new reports, Reynolds allegedly tried to blackball Justin Baldoni in Hollywood. We're talking calls to executives, media manipulation, and even leaked emails suggesting he pulled strings to make sure Baldoni's career took a major hit. And if that sounds insane, just wait.
Talking like this, me into my phone at 2 a.m, but largely via text and voice note. And I will be honest with you, that is not my biggest strength. I love being with people and being in somebody's space and being face to face, and I feel like that's where I excel, and definitely fallen short at times in our text and voice note exchanges, because there's so much to communicate and there's so much happening, and all that to say, I'm just really looking forward to spending time together, and I think that's going to really go a long way for our chemistry, which I believe is there and has been there from the start. So I was so damn excited when you wanted to do this film. I felt it in the room when we met, and yeah, I think it does come from the both of us being hardworking and having a vision and not settling.
Because when this evidence started making waves, people really began to question just how far Ryan and Blake were willing to go to control the narrative. And just when it seemed like things couldn't possibly get worse, Hollywood's biggest bombshell dropped. A secret documentary had been in the works this entire time, and when it finally aired, it shattered everything Blake had been trying to protect. And this is where Blake Lively's carefully curated Hollywood image starts completely falling apart. Because while she and Ryan were busy trying to control the headlines, a secret documentary was already in the works, one that they didn't see coming. And when it finally aired, it was a PR bloodbath, titled He Said, She Said. Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. This 90-minute bombshell wasn't just a rundown of the lawsuit. It was a full-scale expose that ripped the curtain off Hollywood's best-kept secrets. This wasn't some fluff-piece documentary that left room for interpretation. It aired everything. Every exclusive text message, every behind-the-scenes conversation, and every damning contradiction that Blake probably hoped would never see the light of day. It featured insider testimonies from people who had been there, seen it all, and were finally ready to talk. And trust me, they did not hold back. Industry experts, former colleagues, and legal analysts all weighed in, breaking down exactly where Blake's story started falling apart. It showed never-before-seen footage from It Ends With Us, clips that had been kept under wraps until now. And the more people watched, the more obvious it became. This wasn't the story Blake had been selling. For months, she had painted herself as the helpless victim, the one who had been wronged. But the documentary? It flipped the entire narrative upside down. Instead of reinforcing her claims, it raised questions she couldn't answer. Why did her own text messages contradict her public statements? Why did footage from the alleged incident show nothing out of the ordinary? Why were Hollywood insiders now suddenly speaking out, and not in her favor? And here's what made it even worse. Blake and her team never saw it coming. No PR strategy was in place to contain the damage. No legal maneuvers had been pulled to block it. The film launched without interference, and before her team could even figure out what to do, the damage had already been done. This wasn't just a PR hit. This was an all-out collapse. And as the documentary spread like wildfire, it was becoming painfully clear. Blake Lively's Hollywood fairy tale was over. Her team was completely blindsided. They had no pre-release warning, no legal maneuvers to block it, no last-minute PR strategy to soften the blow. Just raw, unfiltered receipts flooding the internet for the entire world to see. And the worst part? This wasn't just a minor scandal or a fleeting controversy. This was Blake Lively's reputation being torn apart in real time, and there was nothing she or her team could do to stop it. The second the documentary dropped, social media exploded. Within hours, hashtags like Blake vs. Baldoni and Justice for Justin were trending worldwide. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit. Every platform was flooded with clips, breakdowns, and heated debates. People who had once blindly defended Blake were now reevaluating everything, and some of her most loyal fans turning on her. And then came the numbers. The kind of numbers that make studios, sponsors, and Hollywood execs very nervous. The documentary racked up a staggering 5 million streams in its first weekend alone. 5 million. That's not just a viral moment. That's a cultural shift. People weren't just watching. They were engaged, analyzing every detail, questioning every narrative Blake had pushed for years. And here's where it gets worse. Because the more people watched, the more damning the story became. Suddenly, old interviews, behind-the-scenes footage, And even Blake's own past statements were being revisited, and they weren't holding up under scrutiny. This wasn't just a hit to her public image. This was a complete unraveling. And the worst part? Blake's nightmare was only just beginning. And this is where Blake's real problem starts, because public opinion isn't just shifting, it's spiraling out of her control. Once celebrated as Hollywood's golden girl, she's now looking more like Hollywood's biggest liability. And in an industry where reputation is everything, the cracks in her carefully polished image are starting to shatter beyond repair. Brands? Backing away quietly. Because, let's be real, no company wants their name attached to a scandal this messy. Studios? Growing hesitant? Because Blake isn't just dealing with bad press. She's now seen as a financial risk. And the perfect wife, perfect mom narrative she and Ryan spent years crafting, it's collapsing, piece by piece. And here's the most terrifying part for Blake. This isn't even rock bottom yet. That bombshell documentary? It wasn't the grand finale. It was just the opening act. Now, with depositions looming, more leaks hitting the public, and Hollywood insiders whispering even more damning details, it's becoming painfully clear. This time, Blake can't PR spin her way out of it. And if you thought this was bad, just wait. Because the next wave of revelations, they might not just damage her career, they could end it completely. At this point, Blake Lively's entire world is on the verge of collapse. The courtroom isn't going her way. The documentary receipts have exposed contradictions she can't explain. Public opinion has flipped. And now, she's facing a nightmare scenario, one where the damage might be completely irreversible. But here's the real kicker. This isn't over. Not even close. Justin Baldoni's team isn't backing down. New evidence is still coming, and the next round of depositions could be catastrophic. Hugh Jackman and Reynolds are about to be grilled under oath. And if their testimonies don't align with Blake's story, well, let's just say it's game over for Hollywood's favorite power couple. And then there's the next bombshell. Another documentary is already in the works, promising to expose even more of what's been happening behind the scenes. If Blake and Ryan thought they could control the narrative, they just lost all control. So the big question is, how much longer can Blake's empire hold up? At what point does Hollywood decide she's more trouble than she's worth? Because right now, it's looking like Justin Baldoni isn't just winning this lawsuit. He's torching her entire career in the process. And trust me, this drama is far from over.